What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Credit Plug channel. So yesterday, CNBC put out an article that states, amid high inflation, 36% of U.S. workers making $100,000 or more state that they are living paycheck to paycheck. Now, a lot of people were surprised by this because usually you think that people who earn six figures are living much more comfortably, but I'm going to be breaking down exactly why this might be the case. Now, more than a third of high-earning Americans feel strapped for cash, a share that has risen dramatically in recent years. 36% of U.S. workers with salaries of $100,000 or more are living paycheck to paycheck, twice as many that said they were in 2019. That's more than the 34% of workers who earn $50,000 to $100,000 a year who are living paycheck to paycheck, though lower than the 52% of paycheck to paycheck workers with incomes of less than $50,000, according to the survey. So basically, the percentage of people who make over $100,000 that say they're living paycheck to paycheck is slightly higher than the people who are making $50,000 to $100,000 that say they're living paycheck to paycheck. 36% versus 34%. Now, it would appear that if you're making more money, then you're probably not going to be living paycheck to paycheck. But I'm going to explain exactly why there's not too much of a difference between those making over $100,000 versus those who might be making close to $100,000 or slightly below $100,000. Employees at higher pay levels aren't immune to living paycheck to paycheck. Willis Tower Watson polled 9,658 full-time employees from large and mid-sized private employers in December and January 2022 before the most recent inflation readings. The findings are similar to a recent Lending Club survey that found that 36% of people earning at least $250,000 per year live paycheck to paycheck. Inflation may push more people to live paycheck to paycheck. Quickly rising costs for food, transportation, and other areas of household budgets may put further stress on families' ability to save money. The Consumer Price Index was up 8.6% in May from a year earlier, the highest inflation reading in about 40 years. The drivers of financial stress differ depending on income. The highest earners cited housing expenses as the most acute challenge, whereas low earners were more likely to report difficulties with debt. While the survey doesn't break down specific housing expenses, employers have anecdotally pointed to increased costs for rents and mortgages as workers relocated residents during the pandemic. Higher income employees are more likely than lower earners to have jobs that allow them to work remotely. Some financial planners recommend Americans who are strapped for cash to try adopting the 50-20-30 rule. This involves allocating 50% of after-tax income to essential expenses, 30% to discretionary expenses, and the remaining 20% to savings, investment, and debt reduction. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, but I'm not entirely surprised that 36% of people who make over $100,000 state that they are living paycheck to paycheck. And it's actually interesting that those who make between $50,000, so they make $50,000, but less than 100,000 have a lower percentage of people who say that they're living paycheck to paycheck. And I remember when I was in college and, people would talk about how much money that you can make as a new employee right when you get your degree. At the time, 80,000, 90,000, 100,000, those numbers sounded really big. But now it wasn't until I actually started to get these jobs where I was making $100,000 that I realized that $100,000 isn't as much as it might seem from the outside looking in. In fact, there was a particular job where I did make exactly $100,000, and I'm gonna break down the number. So I was able to pull together an old pay stub. So I'm gonna explain exactly how much $100,000 is. All right, so what we have right here is an actual pay stub of when I made $100,000. Now I'm gonna break down the number. So how much is $100,000 exactly? So when you look at $100,000, so I have this calculator out here. So let's do $100,000 divided by 12. Okay. So that's $8,333. And then let's say, you get paid twice a month, right? Bi-weekly. So divide that by another 2. And what do you have? This is $4,166.66. Now, what do you guys see right here? $4,166.67. So I'm gonna break down exactly how much I was able to take home after all the deductions. So right here, so this is, the gross, right, before taxes, right? And then I had health insurance right down here. So I was paying about $34 a month for Cigna health insurance. And then 401k $833. Now, just to kind of give you guys some scope, this is a 2-week pay stub, right? This is basically how much I would make every 2 weeks. Now, what I was doing, as you can see, this $833, I was doing 20% of my pre-tax income towards 401k. So if we look at the numbers, right? So I'm making $41.66 every 2 weeks. This is gross. So if I'm doing pre-tax of 20%, so let's multiply this by 0.2. And what does that give you? $833, right? And so that's the same as much as what I was contributing to 401k. Right down here, you have FICA, federal tax. All in all, I'm basically paying $968.94 per paycheck towards taxes. Okay. So we have taxes, we have health insurance, as well as 401k contribution. And then down here, I just had like a separate direct deposit. So I split my paycheck into 2 different deposits. One went to one bank and another one went to another. So I would just save $500 of my post-tax income every 2 weeks. Let's add this up. So take this 500 right here, and then right up here, this is the other disbursement, right? So $1830. So you have $500 plus $1830. So my paycheck every 2 weeks was about $2,300. So let's multiply that by 2. And so I was making about $4,660 net. So this is after payroll taxes. This is after 401k. This is after health insurance. So basically taking home $4,600 per month, but my salary on paper is $100,000. So let's multiply this by 12 months. And this will basically tell you how much net income I was actually taking home at the time. So when you look at this, right? So when we're talking about take home, because remember, as an employee, you're not getting any deductions for, like the things you would if you were a business owner, right? Everything you're paying for, your rent, your utilities, your car note, your car loan, whatever, your insurance, all of that is going to be with post-tax money. There's no pre-tax deductions for any of that stuff. So when you look at the number, I was only really bringing home net about $56,000, right? $56,000. Now, after breaking down those numbers, it's not hard to believe that you could be living paycheck to paycheck, even though you're technically making 6 figures. You're making $100,000. Now, at one point, I was actually making $100,000 from a salary. So I just wanted to show you guys these numbers because I think a lot of people, look at $100,000 and think that's a lot of money when, in fact, $100,000 is not that much money. And I used to think it was a lot of money until I started making it. But you got to remember, that's pre-tax, right? They haven't taken any taxes out. So you factor in rent, utilities, but I can only imagine people who have, children and, other dependents, and, you're in a high rent area. And back then there wasn't this high inflation. So I definitely do sympathize with people who, even though people might think they make a lot of money because they're a 6-figure earner, 6 figures, or let's say $100,000 is honestly not too far from someone who makes $60,000 or $70,000. I think people assume that, when you're making 6 figures, it's a big leap, but really it's not that big of a leap. I don't think $100,000 in 2022 is, wealthy or well off, or, even middle class for that matter. If you're just a single household earner making $100,000, depending on the area that you live in, I'm in the DMV area. So $100,000 really doesn't get you that far. You could live okay, but you're not going to be balling out. And here's another thing about people who make 6 figures on paper, because, I work with a lot of colleagues who, we're all making 6 figures, but they also had a lot of lifestyle adjustments upward, meaning that, eating out for lunch every day, going to Starbucks, going to happy hours, driving, BMW or Mercedes. And, honestly, when you do all of that, there's not going to be much left over, to save or invest. So I definitely see how people over 100K can be paycheck to paycheck. I just wanted to share this information. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And until next time, take it easy and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.